The Morristown Green, a central park echoing with the footfalls of Washington and his compatriots during the Revolutionary War, is not merely a serene escape, but a living testament to the town's pivotal role in shaping our nation. Morristown's history seamlessly intertwines with every individual who grew up there, creating a childhood rich in the echoes of the past and a vibrant spirit of community carried forward by each successive generation. These are their stories. This is Beyond the Green.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Beyond the Green, where we talk about the people and places of Morristown and the Morris County area. It's not very often that we bring in political figures onto the show, as we are an apolitical platform. However, here at Beyond the Green, we do believe that everybody should know who represents them, whether it's in Washington, local government, or even in Trenton. So it is my honor and pleasure to introduce you to you, Assemblywoman Aura Dunn of the 25th Legislative District. Welcome, Assemblywoman.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate this opportunity. It's
a
pleasure to be here.
We are grateful for you taking out time for us today. Let's just start off so people know who you are. You grew up in New York.
I did. Born in Queens Peninsula Hospital in Far Rockaway that no longer exists.
So how did you get to New Jersey? I know you went to University of Buffalo.
Yes. And then spent 15 years in Arlington, Virginia, because I got my start on Capitol Hill after going to graduate school there.
Right.
And really it was my husband's career path. He is a biochemical pharmacologist.
Wow.
We had a discussion one day and
Yeah.
I said, okay. I moved to New Jersey,
Yeah.
which of course closer to family in New
Sure,
York.
sure.
But yeah, New Jersey represented a lot of opportunity
Right.
for my family. My kids included. I really was looking for, my kids were small.
Right.
And DC can be a very transient area. And just looking for more of the, the hometown feel and a connection to community.
Yeah. So you currently live in Mendham?
I do.
So was there a big change for you moving from the Virginia, D.C. area into Mendham?
Oh, absolutely. Actually, Arlington, Virginia, when we first started searching, Madison and Chatham
Sure.
felt more familiar.
Right.
Just small patch of grass, but
Yeah.
you were connected to train stations, a downtown area. And having grown up in Brooklyn and then living in D.C., I'm really an urban animal. But first of all, we couldn't afford Chatham or Madison. So we were pushing our way out along the train line, and we were introduced to Mendham. And just looking around, I said, oh my goodness, what's not to like? It's just an absolute beautiful town.
Yeah.
And for my children, it was a good lesson to teach them in that they're thinking, okay, we're closer to mom's family in New York City, proximity-wise, than dad's family in Pennsylvania. But they learned quickly that Mendham was a lot more like Pennsylvania than the Brooklyn that I grew up in.
Sure. And early in your career, was it early in your career that you became a lobbyist for PBS?
Early, I'd say more maybe middle of my
So
career.
what did your early career look
Yeah,
like?
so my early career, I went to graduate school at
Right.
GW, George Washington University,
Yeah.
to study public administration. I thought, if I want to do this, what better place than to study in the nation's capital,
Sure.
which was great exposure. So I've got my master's in public administration. Most of my classmates went on to, be administrators. They kind of looked at me like, why do you want to get involved in politics? We're policy folks. But I went up to Capitol Hill.
Okay.
So really got my start on Capitol Hill at the age of 24, which is the most common age of a legislative aide on
Sure.
Capitol Hill.
Sure.
They call it the revolving door on Capitol Hill. So you're young, and usually you do a 2-year tenure. I ended up doing a little over 5.
Okay.
Worked for the United States Senate Appropriations Committee.
Okay.
And that's where I worked for the chairman of that subcommittee and handled the education account
Yeah.
for for the Appropriations Committee. So I got to work closely with many of those that worked on the Ready to Learn television program.
Okay.
And from there, I started my family. I was a new mom on Capitol Hill, and not easy to balance, because if anybody knows about Capitol Hill, it's long hours, really long hours. And also I waited well over a year. That was before my daughter, obviously way before she was born, to wait on a waiting list for childcare for Senate employees. But then 9/11 came, and I actually couldn't get to her on Capitol Hill in the Child Care Center.
Wow.
And that was a harrowing experience. It shifted my perspective. I wanted my children to be closer to home. And so I left Capitol Hill to go into the private sector, but representing nonprofit organizations and really continuing my advocacy work on education policy.
And then that led to you being a lobbyist for PBS?
For PBS, for Sesame Street.
Right.
And also I worked very close, represented the production company, Family Communications, and that was the production company for Fred Rogers, known as Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And we worked, basically communicating with decision makers, whether it be on Capitol Hill, through the Department of Education, the President, the First Lady, actually worked closely with First Lady Laura Bush on several initiatives. And one of them was taking the Fred Rogers' body of work on social emotional development and turning that into professional development for every Head Start teacher across the nation.
Wow, really? Okay, wow. So looping back to Sesame Street itself, would you say that you're more Elmo, more Cookie Monster?
Oh, it depends on the day.
Yeah.
I try to keep Oscar in check.
Sure. Everybody does.
And I'm so glad you brought that up, because I represented Sesame Street and worked for them at a really special time, a really pivotal time. The nation was at a crisis, a health crisis with childhood obesity. And Sesame Street on its own started to evaluate its role in that, and how we can really instill healthy habits, which of course always have to start at the earliest of ages, and their choices. So there were, in terms of how the characters who they were associated with, right? So at that time, Cookie Monster, which I think we can all there are moments where we have Cookie Monster moments, usually at the end of the day, so I've got to challenge that. That cookies became a sometime food. So that sweets are a sometimes food. And so there's a lot of programming that went into teaching healthy habits. And also what you saw is the evolution of the Happy Meal in fast food restaurants, where you started to have a choice that French fries could also be a bag of carrots, an apple. The meal doesn't have to come with a soda. It can come with milk and water. And that's now, almost a generation ago. So making a real impact on kids' eating habits.
But I have to say, C is my favorite letter.
Oh, C.
So, chocolate chip cookies, good. But the funny thing is, growing up, Sesame Street was part of us growing up. That you had like 3-2-1 Contact, you had shows, and Mr. Rogers. And a few weeks ago, this is the second time in probably the last 6 weeks for me that Sesame Street has come up. I was on a radio program in Boston about a month ago. It's one of the longest running English Greek programs in the United States. And being from Greek descent, I was on the show. So this woman calls in, and we're talking, and she goes to me, I'm 83 years old. I spoke no English when I came to the United States, and I learned English watching Sesame Street. So that was somewhat profound to me, as, growing up in America, it was just a child's show, but it was more, for her, it was more of an educational kind of way to understand and fine-tune her English. So around this program, and I'm thinking to myself, well, it was very profound to me that you're hearing this, especially having, you being first generation American, having immigrant parents. You know, I had a mother who went to the high school in Morristown after my sister went to kindergarten to learn English herself, telling me that she learned English watching Sesame Street. So my mind automatically, loving Cookie Monster, went to Cookie Monster. So here I am with this woman on the air. And in Greek, I asked her, do you know the Cookie Monster? And without missing a beat, she goes, in English, of course I know the Cookie Monster. And it was one of those funny moments. I didn't know what I was going to get. I just threw it out there. But it just goes to show you how important programming like that is, not only to the youth of this country, but those who immigrate to this country and are looking for a platform to learn English and to, get into America and start living the American dream.
Absolutely. I mean, I would hear that often.
Yeah.
And particularly in my work with Fred Rogers.
Right.
For immigrants learning the language, they'd say, Mr. Rogers spoke slowly.
Mm-hmm.
He spoke clearly. And most of all is more how he made me feel. I felt at ease.
Yeah.
I felt accepted.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, it was like I'm welcomed into his living room, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna, learn the language.
Yeah.
So
it was almost like he was everybody's uncle in a way, and kind of how he talked, and he very, like you said, very inviting as a child. Brought like a calmness to kids' lives.
and people would ask me, they would say, is he really like what you saw on television? And yes, what
Yeah.
you saw is what you got. And being around him, I know it made me, I wanted to be a better person, made
Sure.
me a better person, because I'm his lobbyist. I got to keep him on time. I got to get these meetings, and I've got to, keep everything on schedule. And sometimes that, you get pressured and you get stressed. And
Sure.
he had a very calming presence.
Absolutely, absolutely. Moving back, just want to loop back to your time up in Buffalo. So, as somebody who grew up in Queens, did you know about
More Brooklyn.
Okay,
All right.
okay, I
Born in
apologize.
Queens.
Okay, I got to check underneath my car before I drive home. Now.
You know what? I'm going to bring it up because you're talking about my college experience, so
Yeah.
there's going to be a connection there.
Okay, but I'm just wondering, growing up in the Brooklyn area, and you had this amazing, still today, the Italian cuisine of the area and the amazing food that's very ethnically diverse there, and then you go to Buffalo. What was your first experience like with buffalo wings? Were you did you go to Anchor? Did you go to?
Of course I went to Anchor, went to Duff's. But, as a foodie, you're like, all right, I'm not going to waste my time here. Where's the best one? Where's that?
Exactly.
Anchor's the original,
Sure.
right? Duff's was closer to campus, and that was kind of, just a rite of passage
Sure.
for all of us. I'll share my experience because, Buffalo, the drive from Brooklyn to Buffalo is a good 9 hours
Yeah.
or so. I'm the last to arrive to my dorm,
Okay.
which was shared with 3 other girls, young women. And back then you didn't have Facebook. You weren't chit-chatting with your roommate. You got a letter. You got a letter that said, you'll be dorming with Sally Smith from Cheektowaga or Long Island, and that's all you knew.
Yeah.
And you couldn't look the person up. I mean, I
Sure.
guess you could call them maybe, but we
Yeah.
didn't. And we didn't coordinate curtains.
Exactly.
You went with what you had, what
Yeah.
you needed, and which was definitely a down jacket and lots of gloves and hats for Buffalo. So I get there. I'm the last to arrive, and my roommates. I thought for sure you're last to arrive, you're going to get the worst spot,
Yeah.
right? 4 people in one room. So nobody had their bed set up, nothing, and I was like, this is a little odd. So they were like, oh, hey, Aura, nice to meet you. This and that. Wherever you'd like. Which bed do you want to? Which corner of the room do you want? So I was like, okay. So I settled in. Now, of course, we've bonded. We're getting to know each other. It's 2 weeks in, and we're staying up late one night and just chit-chatting, and they shared with me that they read on the paper, Aura Kenny from Brooklyn, New York, and they were immediately scared that I was going to be They're like, we're going to just let her pick her spot. And they had this image that I would just be this, like, ruffian coming in. So, and then they got to know me, and now I became the pushover.
That's funny, though. What are they from Meadow Soprano to show up?
Like, hey, this is my spot.
Exactly.
They were like, oh, well,
Yeah.
But isn't that great? That's what's so great about going away to school.
Yeah, yeah.
Being exposed to all that diversity and even within your own state, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a public institution. Most of the students are from the state. It's a huge state.
Yep.
And, one of my roommates, she lived, in a really rural part of town, part of the state, it's a rural town. And so we got to learn a lot about each other.
So, since being in office now as an Assemblywoman since 2019, you've acquired a lot of accolades from a lot of different organizations. But for you personally, how do you gauge success in your role as an Assemblywoman?
Thank you for that question. I still gauge it by, I measure it one by one, one individual at a time, which is a lot, right? There's 250,000 residents that I represent, but it's always, that one success or something that was overcome through, my constituent services out of my office, and that really, I guess, is most gratifying for me.
Yeah. When you look at I'm sure you get a lot of calls, emails into the office. Is there any one or two problems that tend to always constantly come up that people are having problems or issue with resolving and are reaching out for some sort of resolution?
Yeah, I mean, there are common issues, common challenges. The Motor Vehicle Commission is probably top, and if you think about it, all of us have an interaction for the most part. All of us of driving age. There's 9 million residents in New Jersey. Over 6 million of them are licensed drivers. I kind of refer to the MVC as our welcome mat to the state. So that's maybe a constant. But what you often see is things come in clusters. And sure, it could be dictated by the calendar, maybe tax season. Sure. So I haven't received my refund yet. But other things, and it's what that tells me. And I feel like it's just a reminder of we are more connected than we know. We're all so connected, and we're kind of experiencing. We experience a lot of things together, and and the importance there is to know that, I think, a reminder that you aren't alone. That there's, and that's where I feel I'm here to help and advocate, and I'm just glad that you even found me, because a lot of people will say, I didn't think to call my assembly person for that. But
looping back to the MVC, I do have a question. With respect to real IDs, now I was fortunate enough, I had gotten the real ID early on in the game because I had signed up for it in 2019, and the quickest appointment I could get was March of 2020, right the week before everything shut down for COVID. But my question is this: why? And I don't know if it's a logistical, I don't know if it's a funding issue. With respect to real IDs, why are they not being printed on site? Is it for security reasons that they're being printed at a central area and mailed to you? Because I've read a lot of things in different sites and stuff that people are upset. They think they're going to walk out of there with an ID, and then they don't get it till 10 to 14 days later.
A lot has to do with it's the coordination on the federal level, right?
Okay.
So this is not a state only. This is a requirement coming down from the federal government. So being in compliance with that, and whatever security levels and protocols have to go through for that. So it's out of the Department of Homeland, U.S. Department of Homeland Security.
Okay. So it's, again, government getting in the way of government.
Well, and that's why I always feel like my job is to make sure that the right hand is speaking to the left.
So more recently within the district, we, up to about a few months ago, let's talk about Wharton, Route 80, and the sinkholes. And that was not just a localized issue. That impacted a lot of people going through that Route 80 corridor. What did that look like for you? Not only with working with state representatives, but then you had the U.S. DOT, you had Secretary Duffy coming looking at the site. What did that coordination look like?
Well, it's good that you mentioned that, because I was starting to call Route 80, America's corridor, America's highway, right? You think hundreds of thousands of commuters past that exit, which was in Wharton, which I call ground zero, right where the sinkhole opened up. And then by the time you reach the GW Bridge going into New York City, there's millions that are now on Route 80. I think in all of my experience in working in the public sector, working for government, whether it be now in an elected role or when I was district director for a congressman or a legislative aide on Capitol Hill, this was a good governance story. And I may get criticized for that, but I think, because while we were in it, it sure didn't feel that way.
Sure.
But having to bring all those levels of government together and to cooperate and to coordinate on making sure that, we're swiftly responding to this crisis doesn't always come so easily. But it really, I really wanted to thank the leadership of the Department of Transportation. And, I say it's what I learned, but it's kind of what I've known all along. So maybe it was just another reminder that it always comes down to communication.
Yeah.
Having clear communication, open communication. So yes, the Department of Transportation's commissioner and I spoke regularly, probably all day long, every day throughout that 6-month ordeal.
Yeah, yeah. And the funny thing about that is, these sinkholes were caused by mines that were closed decades ago. Has there been a proactiveness now to kind of help mitigate the damages that could happen with other mines that are in the area? Because they've been somewhat documented. The thing is, I don't think when Route 80 was built, they expected the amount of traffic coming through there that kind of made these mine shafts collapse, which created the sinkholes. So is there anything that's going on either within the district, outside of the district, that is helping to plan ahead of time if this happens again?
So I have legislation calling for, similar to what we've done with lead pipes, right? We do a reclamation program, which is costly and extensive, but needs to be done. So I've been calling for that. I have spoken to the chair of the Transportation Committee, who recognizes that, has even brought forth my bill for some consideration. So there's talk, but I really think there needs to be more. Government shouldn't be just in reaction mode. I feel one of my main purposes is to be that leader that restores the public's trust and hope in government, that government will work for them. Sure. So that's why I'm very vocal on this initiative. So I'm not happy with it yet. I'm not fully satisfied. So I'll keep up the focus and the light, shine the light on this need for this reclamation program. Okay. Because we know we know that the mines are there, and the main question I would get from constituents all the time, and it was a perfectly reasonable question: how do I know it's safe to go back on the road, even after, I get all this, the pavement and things have been fixed, because we know, we know what's underneath. We don't fully know what could occur. Sure.
Moving forward now, and I hope I pronounced this right, you had a role in the Clary Act. Is that how you say?
Yes, Clary.
That's right? Okay.
Jean Clary, also known as the Campus Crime Disclosure Act.
Yeah, and for people who don't know what that means, is an act that went into place that any school educational site that got federal funding needed to start reporting crime that was happening on campus or within the campus area. How did your involvement come to be with that?
I worked for Senator Arlen Specter, the
Okay.
United States Senator for Pennsylvania.
Sure.
And the Clarys, the parents of Jean, who was a Lehigh University student,
Okay.
who was tragically murdered in her dorm room on Lehigh campus. So her parents started this foundation and really were pushing for these changes. So we never have a, what happened to Jean happen again.
Sure.
So really it was by, who do you approach first? You approach your own representatives, so as Pennsylvanians. And they were fortunate in that their representative was also the chairman of the committee that oversees the education department. And I was the legislative aide that worked on those issues. And a hearing was called. And if anybody knows Senator Arlen Specter's, watched his testimony, he was also a prosecutor, so he kind of brought that to his role as United States Senator. So we were finding that there were loopholes in the reporting, and that's why things were not being reported. And the Secretary of Higher Education at the time made a big mistake by answering the senator and referring to a certain reporting requirement as idiocy.
Oh boy.
He was under the Clinton administration,
Okay.
a different party, and that the chairman stopped him. He said, "I'm sorry. You repeat what you said?" And he doubled down, and he referred to what he called idiotic was that. Let's say a University of Pennsylvania,
Yeah.
if a crime was committed in the middle of the street, which is city property, but that street runs through the campus,
Sure.
and you're a student, you've got to get from one building to the other, and you now are subjected to a crime in the middle of the road. That wasn't being reported on, and the Secretary of Education referred to that as idiocy. Well, we all got motivated then, and we closed that loophole.
Yeah, wow.
So we got the last word on that.
Yeah.
And thanks to Mr. and Mrs. Clary, mainly Mrs. Clary, Mom Clary, we walked the halls of Capitol Hill, both on the Senate and the House side, lobbying for this legislation.
Yeah. So now, what are the requirements for a university or a college report? Is it a quarterly? Is it a monthly?
I think it's more annual, but there's
Okay.
still work that's being done. I see, and I look at the Clary Foundation is still, up and running and very active. And I often think about maybe reaching out again to see, what more we could be doing. So
Yeah.
to kind of perfect, that's the thing about public policy, right? It's forever evolving.
100%.
They're living, breathing programs.
Yeah. So I'm just curious, going back to your undergrad degree, did you know, going into college, even when you were in high school, graduating high school, what did you think you wanted to do?
So my high school yearbook,
Yeah.
which by the way, I'm 2 rows down from Hakeem Jeffries.
Really?
Yeah. So he's already he's in the United States House of Representatives.
Yeah.
So, I have child psychologists underneath my picture. So, and I didn't even then, I'm a sociology major. So I was still very much open. I certainly didn't have my
Sure.
major down pat, and I think I encourage all young people to not put that pressure on themselves. That
Yeah.
College is about the time of exploration, there's just so much pressure to be in this specialty by the time the end of 8th grade.
Yeah, exactly.
So I actually didn't pursue psychology, but I'm thinking, child well-being and education were always, where my interests were. So, and I'd say I like to work for children, maybe not necessarily with them.
Yeah.
And that sounds about right with what I'm doing and advocating for
Sure.
education policies that give every child a fair start and equal opportunity, which really is reflective of my own upbringing, my own background.
Sure. But was there something during your undergrad that kind of flipped the switch for you and says, hey, I want to go get a master's in public administration? Was there a class you took, a professor that kind of influenced you that way?
So Professor Howe, who was a Supreme Court judge for the state of New York, she it was actually family law class that I was taking. She was an adjunct professor, and I just admired her so much. She was tough, and I told her I wanted to go into family law, and she was like, "No, you don't." I'm like, okay. And, you know, she said the things, and you know, looking back, my advice to young people would be, well, it's important to, you know, obviously to have mentors and gain all the perspective and insight you can. But if you're talking to someone right before retirement, you got to factor that into as well. And she's like, you know, things I've seen that I can't erase, that I can't, it just terrible things. And she said, you know, but I really see you in the policy world. And she said, through her connections, she set up an interview for me with the New York Assembly with a chief of staff in an assembly office. So I remember taking the Amtrak out to Albany. And it was a good day. I didn't get the position.
But that's okay.
But that's right.
Yeah. Yeah. So
and that kind of, I think, really put me on that path.
Yeah. Because it's probably one of those things you never probably really thought of.
No.
You got exposed to it, and you were like, hey, maybe this could be what I want to do.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you brought that up, because one of the things I love being an assembly person is I visit with students and talk about state government and really open their eyes to what is done on the state level, because we know our news coverage of state and local government is shrinking, sometimes non-existent. Everything is so nationalized. And so I love that opportunity. And just yesterday, I was at Morris Knowles High School, and I said, look, I didn't come from a political family. That would never even, that wouldn't be seen as an opportunity for someone like me. You know, so I think it's important for them to hear that, because it actually can be it's supposed to be any of us.
100%. So what advice would you give to high school kids, even college kids, who are thinking, you know, we're at a time now that kids are now becoming much more involved than when we were growing up.
Yes.
So what advice would you give to them if they are considering a potential political career, whether it be in, you know, a municipal government or going into, you know, campaigning for a state-wide camp, something like that, like an assemblywoman? What advice would you give to them?
So what I see in the young people is that they are much more issue-focused, much more issue-oriented, and I think, and maybe like many of us, you know, are starting to question, I don't know if I have a political home. You know, so that, I think that's important, and to stay, if the environment is your top issue and concern, that you can, you know, get involved with those groups, but also remain valuing the two-party system, and participating in that process. I think mastering the art of communication,
100%.
and listening. To stay open, to know that you're supposed to be challenged. You're supposed to feel uncomfortable in certain discussions, because that broadens our perspective. So with that, you know, that's why I was very supportive, and I kind of broke from my party in the beginning on supporting a bill that is now law. I think we might be one of the first in the nation that 17-year-olds can now vote in a primary if they turn 18 by the time of the general election. So it doesn't change the age of the age requirement for the general election.
Right.
But studies have shown that voting in a primary really makes you more of a lifelong voter.
Sure.
And we're seeing that shift where people are kind of overlooking the primary or not participating in the primary. In the state of New Jersey, we don't have a fully open primary system. You can, though. You can, you'd have to declare. You can then undo. Or,
Right.
But that's an important part of the process in bringing that candidate to the general election and having a say in that and having a choice in that.
Yeah.
So I encourage them to stay involved there.
Yeah, I think it's important because a lot of them are very motivated and they want to be involved and they're looking for some way to get involved.
And I'm sorry, I could
That's
I could
okay.
go on and on. And again, it's kind of what you're seeing whether it's through your TikTok feed
Sure.
and what you're seeing is more of the theater.
Sure, yes.
Right?
100%.
So I go into classrooms and I take a poll. I say, who here knows AOC? Lots of hands go up.
Right.
MTG, Marjorie
Taylor
Taylor Greene,
Greene, yeah. Yeah.
those, because they're often in the headlines, right?
Right.
I said, how about AKD? Who's AKD? I'm like, that's me. And you should get to know me because I'm your state representative and I have more influence on the what impacts your daily life than Marjorie and AOC ever will.
I'm just thinking we need T-shirts now. That's great. It really is. As we next year is the 250th of America, as we discussed off air. As far as the legislation or the governing body here, whether it's the New Jersey Congress or the Assembly, are anything in motion yet for that, for the 250th of America here in New Jersey?
Oh yeah, lots. And I'm really proud of the leadership from the county level. And rolling out programs, and then it's going to take all of us to. I think the municipalities have a role in here because each municipality has a history of their own to feature. Like I'm so proud to represent the town of Dover. That it's one of the oldest municipalities in the entire state. While serving in office, I got to witness them reach their 300th anniversary. Right, so. Yeah, putting Morris County on the map, for people to really understand the historical significance to our founding.
Yes.
And I tell people because down in Trenton, Trenton and Princeton get a lot of coverage.
Yeah.
But Morris, is equally of importance. So.
Yeah, 100%. Because it's not just colonial history we're talking about. We're also talking industrial revolution, and it's more than just Hamilton and Washington and the Schuyler's here in town. It goes on to the Alfred Vales and everything that has come out of here, especially what we talked about in Wharton and the Rockways of the world. I mean, these were iron mines that really propel the Industrial Revolution. But a lack of, just kind of play on words. That history kind of got buried in these mine shafts, and let's say, and nobody really talks about them. And the only time you have incidences like what happened on Route 8, and people are like, oh, there's mine shafts in New Jersey with no idea if that's happening. I'm just hoping not only within the district, but within county-wide, more of that history starts coming out. And that people start discovering it, because there are some great stories that need to be told that really help curate who America is today and what America is today and what it meant in not only in the 17th centuries but all the 18th, 19th, 20th, 21st centuries, on what's happened here in the area to help propel America to where we are today in the 21st century.
I couldn't agree more. I have to say, think of the soil that we stand on, right, and what lies underneath.
Sure.
The harshest winter in Jockey Hollow, right, and it would just, it just speaks to the resilience of this area and region, which I think is embedded in our spirit. We're a resilient people here in Morris County.
Yeah, 100%.
And always and continue to innovate. Right now, we remain the medicine, known as the medicine cabinet or medicine chest of the world.
Yeah.
Right, there's still a great deal of development and innovation that occurs here in Morris County.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm going to just change gears here a little bit. So being a self-proclaimed foodie,
Yeah.
I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot here. Thinking about the district, what's your favorite diner?
Oh, you can't do that to me.
Absolutely, I'm going to do it.
You can't do that to me. So, well, because I'm going to share with you that I was during I got into office right when COVID hit.
Yeah.
And I remember my father telling me, "Kid, this is your Super Bowl." I didn't see sinkholes coming. But that's one thing about being a public servant. You know that there will be a crisis. And
Yeah.
it's how we manage that and
Yeah.
make the people feel secure. So I reached out to the diners owners right away.
Okay.
Because the restaurant industry, as you know, was just
it was decimated.
So, yes.
Yeah.
And worked closely with the owners of the Town Square Diner.
In
Morton.
Rockaway,
Yeah. And then we went through which was right off of really impacted by the Route 80 closures.
Yeah.
They closed last week.
Yeah.
Diners are we are the diner capital of the New Jersey, is
Right.
the capital of the world.
Yeah.
And it's not just about feeding people.
Yeah.
It's really a community hub. I actually wrote a letter to the governor early on saying, "Come meet me for a cup of coffee at the diner to see what these guys and women are going through."
Sure.
And full circle, he did make it to the diner for that cup of coffee with me just a few months ago during the Route 80 crisis. So
Wow.
I took him right over to the Town Square.
Good.
So, but you noticed that you didn't get me on record to say which one was my favorite.
No, but that's what I'm going to say. That's not what I asked you, Assemblywoman. So I know. So go ahead.
How about this? Thursdays
Yeah.
is usually pea soup day.
Okay.
So, depending on which day I'm at if I'm at Randolph on a Thursday, then they're my favorite because I get pea soup.
I think what we have here is a starting of a foundation that maybe next year we'll start something that we'll come with you, and we will hit all the diners in the district, and we'll film it, and we'll do a piece on AKD on diners.
I love that. I said we started the Diner Coalition.
Yeah.
And you may appreciate this given your Greek heritage.
Yeah.
The owners said you're our honorary Greek legislator.
Yeah. But I think that would make for a wonderful program while we walk, especially for the 250th of America, because that way we can highlight the different towns in the district and then highlight some of the diners in the district as well.
I love that. I'm fully on board.
It's like history in gyros, it's something like that.
Yeah.
As we're butting up to our time here, we kind of talked about what you thinking about going into school as child psychology. But if you weren't doing what you're doing now, what do you think you'd be doing?
I think I would be doing what I am doing now. You like that?
Yeah.
Because I got to do it. I got to, my married name is Dunn. So I thank my husband for that last name and also my slogan, which is Aura Gets It Done.
Got it.
So I'd be doing and accomplishing through really advocating for those who feel that maybe they're not heard or they don't have a voice. And that could be done in any capacity, any role. That's what I share with students. And my proudest legislative accomplishment is that Clery Act. And I was able to do that as a staffer, not as an elected official.
Yeah.
But I love being an elected official, so I hope I can continue to do more.
No, and you've done, going back, citing all the recognition you've got, those, you may not base your career on those recognitions, but they do speak to the good job that you have done within the district. Let me just ask you this before my final question. Do you see for you personally, not only within the district, but within the state, again, I'm not trying to politicize this at all, but talking about the cost of energy that has risen in the state over the last 6 months now. Do you see any resolution to that?
I do. You know, it's not going to happen overnight, but we really need to kind of go back to some of the programming and policies that we did have, where we had a more diversified portfolio of energy sources coming into this, either coming into the state or also that we generated here in the state.
Yeah.
And I think establishing that, reestablishing that energy independence will make a big difference in, you know, obviously the choice. Competition brings choice, and and also lowers those prices. And there's not a single person that hasn't been impacted by this, and that really is the number one issue that back to, I know, kind of original question, but that I'm hearing from everyone, and particularly seniors. Seniors who live on a fixed income, and they say, I can't do this. We're looking at 20% on average. The bills are up 20%.
For some sort of resolution, would you say the time frame is sooner than later? Or are we talking like a 2 to 3 year process or is it something we're going to have to live with for a longer period, for the short term or the long term?
Well, I think the short term is that there needs to be a new framework established that we can then, execute. And the execution part, right, will take a little bit longer. But I hope within, the New Jersey's at a pivotal time right now. We've got an election in 18 days where we're going to appoint the new executive for this state, and with that we can then start, where the rubber hits the road, basically right after the oaths are taken. And
Exactly. Finally, going back to graduation for your master's. If you could go back to the night before your graduation for your graduate degree, and you can slip a note into your pocket, what would you tell yourself?
Oh, simple. Just believe in yourself.
Yeah.
Believe.
It's a great message, because if you can't believe in yourself, nobody else will believe in you. So listen, it's been a pleasure to have you on. I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you're in the middle of campaigning. So it's been really great to have you on, Assemblywoman. Good luck for the next 18 days.
Thank you.
You have a great portfolio to work off of, great body of work. The 25th district here in New Legislative District, should be proud to have somebody like you representing them for at least the next 2 years, if not for many more years after that.
Well, thank you. I'm proud of District 25. I'm proud of the people that I serve and represent, and really am honored and feel blessed to have this opportunity to represent them. Yeah.
So again, thank you for your time and your generosity with it. For Beyond the Green, I'm Pete Barbounis. This is Assemblywoman Aura Dunn. Until next time, everybody, be good to each other, and we'll see you all next time.